Hi, everybody. Welcome to BSB Preview. So as you may know, this is a reading panel featuring our August 2020 releases. Our lovely authors are going to be reading from books that will be available on the Bold Strokes Books site in about 2 weeks, but we do have a special offer for you tonight only for the next about 2.5 hours. So stay tuned for that, special discounts. So why don't we start off with a question, just while we wait. Just in a sentence or two, tell us what inspired this book that you're going to read from today. What was your inspiration? So give us your name, the title of the book, and what inspired you. Let's start with Kimberly Cooper Griffin.
Oh, thanks, Sandy. My book, In the Cards, was inspired by a character sketch exercise, and we used tarot cards. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be kind of cool to do tarot cards on characters? And it just kind of moved into itself. So that's where it came from.
Oh, that's so cool. It's like the thing that was supposed to inspire your character development inspired your book.
It did. It was super cool.
Taking it to the next level. How about you, Ileandra? What inspired your book? Tell us the title and what inspired you.
Oh, okay. The title is Moon Fever. And it was a question that I asked myself, actually. I pretty much just said, what if vampires were gay? And that's all it was. It was really simple. That's what it was.
I feel like there's evidence to suggest that vampires could be gay. I feel like there's a lot of literary
every Anne Rice book.
Yeah. You, Jackson Leigh, tell us the title of your book and what inspired it.
The title of my book, Blades of Bluegrass, is anybody that reads my books, a lot of my books are in equestrian settings, and I love thoroughbred racing, but this book is also a whole lot about not just Kentucky bluegrass country and thoroughbred racing, but it's a whole lot about women in the military, and it's about new research in prosthetic limbs, and it's been inspired by some people, some experience I've had with some people, women in the military, and some of the things that they've experienced, and also some really fantastic prosthetic research that's going on at Duke University near me.
Cool, thank you. Jaycie Morrison, the title of your book and what inspired it?
The title of my book is Guarding Hearts. This is the third in a series, and it is also about women in the military, but during World War II. It's a historical romance. And as I've taken these characters along through their journey together, in this particular book, they're wanting to establish friendships with other couples, as you do. And so part of the conflict is regarding what do you do if one person in the other couple is attracted to someone in your couple. So that sort of inspired me thinking about that, and one of the things that I think lesbian friends sometimes run into.
I mean, I feel like it's a conflict for the ages. That could almost be a contemporary conflict as well as a historical one.
Exactly.
PJ Trebelhorn, the title of your book and what inspired it?
It's Hopes and Dreams, and I just really wanted to write a book about what if you had a crush on the person who bullied you in high school, and how that would work out.
How does it work out? Or do we have to buy the book to find out?
You have to buy the book to find out.
All right. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to filter in. So far, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sandy Lowe. I am Bold Strokes Books Senior Editor. And this is our 5 p.m. BSB Preview panel featuring our August 2020 releases. Okay, all our authors are going to be doing about a 5-minute reading for us today. And we are going to start with D. Jackson Leigh, reading from Blades of Bluegrass. So take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay. I'm going to set this up. It's a scene where Lieutenant Teddy Alexander, she's in the medical field in the military. She's being given a new assignment from her colonel that she works for. The two of them have been assigned on this new special project that is researching, is on a special project to look at new research in bionic limbs for soldiers to see if some soldiers can be returned to active duty in some fashion, even though they've lost a limb in combat. And the Army's very interested in this new project, and she's very interested in it. And she's working with this colonel that they're not just she's worked under him for a long time, so they're not just boss and soldier. They have a relationship that's sort of relaxed, other than the usually military protocol. So that explains some of their conversation. Colonel Tom Winstead opened the file on his desk. Female soldier, combat injury that resulted in amputation of her left arm above the elbow 3 weeks ago. She's been released from Walter Reed, and I'm designating you to supervise her rehab. Teddy frowned. Here? This wasn't usual protocol. Nearby. She's elected to spend her recovery at her grandfather's farm, which is about 45 minutes from here. That made no sense. Soldiers didn't get to pick where they wanted to rehab. They went where the U.S. Army told them to go. Why isn't she rehabbing at Walter Reed? Colonel Winstead took a deep breath and blew it out before leaning forward and handing the file to her. This is a special case, Teddy. Very high priority. What's so special about it? He averted his eyes. Remember the surgeon who explained the special surgery required for the bionic prosthetic that allows a patient to actually experience sensation? Teddy remembered. His research and early results were amazing. Yeah, so? That surgeon was flown to Lonsdale to perform this soldier's amputation the day she was coptered in from the field hospital. Wow. How did she get that treatment? Her father is Senator Brock Story. Teddy frowned. The guy rumored to be our next Secretary of Defense, an idiot in the White House, is unseated in November. Rehabbing near MIT or Duke to take advantage of the bionic research programs. Colonel Winstead stood and walked around the desk to close his door. He started, and the captain kicked both of them out of her room. Before she'd let them take her to the operating room, Story insisted the doctor write an absolutely no visitors, even family, order on her chart. Teddy shrugged. I guess she and her father don't get along. Colonel Winstead frowned. Maybe, but there's more. Story is up for reenlistment, but declined, and the Army involuntarily extended her. Teddy shrugged again. That's normal protocol when medical discharge paperwork until the medical discharge paperwork is processed. I'm getting pressure to accept her as the first candidate in our program. They want to return her to service. Teddy scanned the file again. Is she Black Ops or something? Tom waited until she looked up from the file and met his gaze. This is just between us, Teddy. He waited until she nodded her consent. Rumor says she knows something the brass doesn't want her to talk about, something she can't discuss if she's still in the ranks. Teddy sighed. To someone else. Because you're a medic who went back to school and got double certified in physical and occupational therapy. You should be able to meet all her health and rehab needs. And you can work on the project from there. Nobody needs to be tied to an office these days. All you need are your notes, your laptop, and your cell phone. But Story is your priority, Lieutenant. But velvet gloves on this one. Both those men, Senator Story and General Banks, will have a lot of power over military appropriations in the coming year, especially funding for special projects like ours. They want Captain Story in our program. They want her to stay in the Army. We don't have to know why. We do have to follow orders. She stared at him. I don't have a choice in this, do I? Has the Army ever given you a choice? Good point.
Thank you. It's awesome. Dying to read the rest.
So that's Blades of Bluegrass.
All right, so that is available on our site for pre-order for 15% off until 7:30 tonight. Just so you know. And it will be available on the Bold Strokes Book site on August 1st. All right, next up we have Jaycie Morrison reading from her August release, Guarding Hearts. Take it away whenever you're ready, Jaycie.
Thanks. So as I mentioned in this scene, Bet Smythe wants friendship with another Women's Army Corps couple, Kathleen Hartley and Victoria Whitman, but she has sensed that Kathleen is attracted to her lover, Gail Rains, and in this scene, Gail and Kathleen are meeting for a run after Bet has shared her concerns with Gail. Kathleen Hartley was waiting for her, an eager expression on her face. Rains realized the attractive captain had been watching her walk across the base, and she wondered what Hartley saw. "I didn't know you were a runner, Captain." "Well, it's one of those pursuits I never want to do until I've done it, and then I'm glad," Hartley replied. Rains laughed. "That sounds like Bet's attitude toward our walks." Then she stopped and looked away. "What's wrong?" Hartley asked. "I've never spoken of Bet like that before," Rains answered slowly. "To a friend, you mean?" Rains looked back at Kathleen, wondering again if Bet's worries were groundless. Wasn't this what Bet had wanted for them? The opportunity to share what they had with someone who had similar affections in their own lives? She swallowed and smiled. "Yes, thank you. To a friend." "Good. You might find you'll get to like it," Kathleen said, silently reminding herself that friendship was her goal as well. She'd told herself that every time she'd been around Gail, and when she thought of her, before, during, and after. Kat had casual acquaintances, but other than Whit, there was no one who knew her well and supported her unconditionally. But for Gail to be that person, Kat had to shift her feelings from this nagging sexual attraction to friendly affection. Right. "Actually, there's a question I would like to ask you as a friend," Rains said as she began stretching. Kathleen startled, hoping Rains wasn't reading her mind. "Sure, ask away." She followed Gail's preparations, admiring the lieutenant's long, tight body, hoping any tremor in her voice might be explained by their exertion. Rains shook her head. "I have to think of how to put it." They ran half a lap in silence. Rain's mouth worked a little, and Kathleen wondered if she was struggling with some vocabulary. "Sometimes the easiest way is just to say it," she suggested. "Not for me. I find words have such power they must be handled very carefully, like Miriam's ballistics." Kathleen smiled. "Well, it's all right if you're off target. I'm not breakable. But perhaps our friendship is at this stage." "Please don't worry about that, Gail. I promise I'll be listening with an open mind." A little spark of hope flared in her heart. Could Rains be about to confess some unsought attraction for her? They had almost finished their lap before Rains spoke. "This life with Bet is new for me. Being with someone, being close, being..." Hartley waited, although Rains' intention was clearly not what she had secretly wished. In fact, she could easily identify the words Rains was seeking. "Being in love?" she suggested softly. "Yes, being in love," Rains agreed. "Nothing has prepared me for the way it is with us. I am in a new place with no guide." "So what do you need to ask me?" Kat trotted along, keeping her eyes averted. Be a friend," she repeated to herself. Rain's tone brightened as if she had finally thought of a way to phrase it. "Are you and Whit always available to each other?" "You mean to run errands or help out around the house?" "No, I mean physically." Kathleen had leaned closer as Rain's voice dropped. "Oh, we're talking about sex." Hartley hid her smile at the quick, embarrassed nod. "Sorry, I should have guessed. Yes, of course we strive for that, although sometimes one or the other of us is not as ready, or another matter interferes, especially lately," she scolded herself as she straightened. "Did something happen to bring this question to your mind?" "Yes, Bet has been on a very different schedule for days, and we haven't seen much of each other. So I was late to work this morning because she Well, as Rains trailed off, blushing deeply, having forced away any mental images. Oh, I understand. Whit works nights every 2 weeks, so she and I deal with this all the time. She was pleased to answer as a friend would. I would say this, being late to work once in your career because you need to be with the most important person in your life is not a problem. The Army will still be here in another hour or two. But if your work starts to suffer, then you might be crossing into obsession, which like addiction, takes you away from yourself. And I should know. Rains recalled how much less of herself she had been while she was drinking. But being with Bet makes me feel more of myself. Hartley kept her tone light as they finished their last lap and turned toward her car. I'm sure that's true. So stop worrying. Be yourself. Be yourself in love with Bet. Try not to be late again, but make the most of this time you have. She looked off into the distance, remembering the incredible romance of her first few months with Whit. When had they let routines and parties take the place of passion? She tried to keep the longing out of her tone when she added, as the brief hold was broken. Recalling the salty tang of Bet's skin after they had been for a walk, Rains unconsciously licked her lips. If I were Whit, that might be something I would enjoy. Kathleen Hartley felt a heat that was beyond their exercise. She lowered herself into the car, her whole being off kilter, craving the certainty of an embrace where she knew how to fit. How could she want Rains when what she needed was Whit, who took an insecure, some would have said frigid woman, and taught her to be open to the joys of her body. Whit had always shared herself willingly, even after periods of neglect like this. But how long would her patience last? Would she wait while Kat struggled to align her innermost emotional world with the physical life they shared? She drove home quickly, desperately trying to control her heart's agitation.
Oh, guys, we're talking about sex. So sweet. Do you moonlight as a relationship advisor, Jaycie? Because I feel like there's a lot to learn in that excerpt.
Well, you know, my wife and I have been together 33 years, almost 34 now.
Wow.
That
So
could
sure,
definitely
I'll
make
take
you an
it
expert.
on.
Thank you.
Sure.
Alrighty. Next on my list is PJ Trebelhorn reading from Hopes and Dreams.
All right, this is a scene where it's the first time that Victoria and Riley have spoken to each other in 20 years since high school graduation. And Victoria was part of a clique that bullied Riley and her friends in their senior year of high school. So this is kind of, you know, she doesn't really want to talk to her, but she kind of has to. Are you just going to sit there staring at your phone, or are you going to actually call her? Megan asked. She held out her hand and snapped her fingers. Give me her number and I'll call. Riley sighed and entered the number into her phone. She closed her eyes and gave herself a mental shake. You can do this. She opened her eyes and pressed the button, then stared straight ahead. It rang 3 times and she was about to hang up before it went to voicemail, but then she answered. Victoria Thayer, she said, very businesslike. Riley opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her throat constricted, and all she could hear for a moment was the blood pulsing in her ears. She knew she must have looked like a deer in headlights as she glanced at Megan, who was giving her a thumbs up. Hello, Vic said, sounding irritated now. Who is this? Yes, hello, I'm sorry, Riley said, and then cleared her throat. I'm the manager of the movie theater in Wolf Bay. I had a message that you called about a bachelorette party. Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry, but I didn't catch your name. My name is Riley Warren, she said before she could change her mind. It gave her a small amount of satisfaction when there was a lengthy pause from the other end of the line. Miss Thayer, are you still there? Riley, she asked, her voice quiet, and if Riley wasn't mistaken, a little strained. From Wolf Bay High, class of 2000? Yes, that's me. Riley took a long drink from the glass of water Megan handed her before sitting across from her at the kitchen table. When she put the glass back down, Megan reached across and placed a hand on her arm. How have you been? The question stunned Riley. A lot better than I was in high school, but why are you asking me that like we're just old friends reconnecting? Riley pulled her arm away from Megan and stood before beginning to pace. She pinched the bridge of her nose between her thumb and her forefinger as she let out a breath. Because we were anything but friends, Victoria, or maybe you've conveniently forgotten about that. I haven't, Riley, but I wish I could go back in time and change it all. I swear to you, I'm not that person anymore. I'm so sorry for all of it. Riley sat back down with a thud because she sure as hell hadn't been expecting that. She'd spent so many long years feeling nothing but anger and hatred for the entire Thayer family, and now she gets an apology right off the bat? Riley, Victoria asked, a hint of levity in her voice. Are you still there? Yeah, she replied. So the reason I'm calling is to tell you I can't let you book the theater for your party. Why not? Did the woman I spoke to give you the whole message? I'll pay twice what you'd get if you sold out the theater. It's not about the money, Riley said, even though it was a little bit. Can you not get the film I requested? I'm sure Vanessa has a digital copy of it because it's her favorite movie. Okay, slow down. We aren't a big city multiplex. We aren't digital, although we are working on it. We still run movies on actual film through a real projector. And yes, I could probably get the movie you requested. Then why are you turning me down? Honestly, I'm not comfortable having anything to do with you or your sister. Riley stared at Megan, who was doing her own version of a happy dance right there in her chair. I see. Instead of sounding angry, Victoria sounded almost sad, and Riley hated that she almost felt bad for saying what she did. But what the hell, it was the truth. Okay then, will you allow me the opportunity to show you I've changed? I'm not really sure. Meet me somewhere for coffee. I'd really like to talk to you. I can't. I have to work tonight. Then tomorrow morning. Riley moved the phone away from her ear and held it out to Megan, who backed away and shook her head. She wants to have coffee, Riley whispered. Do it, Megan mouthed back. Riley shook her head, not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't believe any of this was actually happening. Before Victoria thought she'd fallen off her chair, she put the phone back to her ear. Fine. Wolf Bay Diner at 10? I'll be there, Victoria said, sounding relieved. Thank you, Riley. I'll see you in the morning. The call disconnected and Riley dropped her phone on the table in front of her. She and Megan looked at each other in silence for a moment before Riley groaned and rested her head next to her phone. You are a rock star, Megan said before bursting out laughing. I can't believe you said you weren't comfortable having anything to do with them. You're awesome. Then why do I feel like I'm going to throw up? Because she was your first crush. Come on, we have to find you something to wear.
That's great. It's your first crush, and we have to find you something to wear. Thank you so much. All right, so again, all these are 15% off until 7:30, and I am posting the links in the chat roll. They are all pre-orders, so you will get the ebook or the print files or books in about 2 weeks on August 1st. All right, next up, we have Kimberly Cooper Griffin reading from In the Cards.
You're ready. Thank you. In the Cards is a book that is set in Denver, Colorado, where I live. And it's about two women trying to maintain control of their lives for different reasons. And but they're feeling a call for something different. There's something more that they need in their lives. But they're worried that change can bring difficult decisions and pain. So this starts in the very beginning of the book when the first tarot card reading occurs. Marnie, my younger sister by 3 years, has always seemed older than me. She's always been so serious, giving her an air of being more mature. When Marnie was born, my mom focused most of her attention on her, trying to figure out what Marnie needed. Nonverbal until she was 6, Marnie presented a sizable challenge. This made me self-sufficient at an early age, but I bore no resentment. I loved my sister more than anything. Marnie eventually learned to take care of herself, for the most part, but the world wasn't always accommodating to her. So it left me here taking care of her without any indication it would be anything other than that for the two of us for a while. Like I said, I tried not to dwell on it, but there I was, dwelling on it, while a beautiful woman played music for me on the mall. I sat up straighter and pushed all of those thoughts away to give the musician my full attention. Too soon, she finished up with Rocky Mountain High. As the final strands washed over me, I wished for more, but the woman with the beautiful dreads gathered the money from her case and packed up her violin. I watched with interest as she discreetly handed the money to the bedraggled man sitting on the bench. His eyes gleamed with gratitude, and my eyes welled up as I pretended not to see the private moment. So many questions about the woman leapt to my mind as I watched her kiss her fingers, pick up her instrument, and wave goodbye to him. With a vibrant swirl of her multi-layered skirt, she walked down the street. I wanted to follow, but I stayed put. She disappeared around the corner, and the bustling after-work crowds absorbed the dispersing audience. The outdoor patios, crowded with young professionals holding wine, microbrews, and tumblers of whiskey, laughing over overly jovial laughs and flaunting their camaraderie, continued to fill up as offices closed for the night. I could be one of them, laughing and drinking with coworkers. But who would make dinner? I sighed and got up, hefting the strap of my laptop bag over my shoulder, headed towards the train station, walking slowly, taking my time. About a block from the station, I noticed a storefront I'd never seen before. Or maybe I'd seen it, but not really noticed it on my hurry to get home every night. The sign bearing a big hand caught my eye. Madame Eugenie, tarot cards and palms red. The sign said it in red neon. I'd walked this block countless times and never noticed this small shop before. A tiny table draped with a black cloth sat next to the front door, and an old woman dressed in a long black dress and a red shawl sat at the table shuffling the cards. Her eyes tracked me as I slowly passed. She didn't say anything, but the little hairs on my neck rose, not in a bad way, more like in an aware way. I checked the time on my phone, already a half an hour late. I backtracked to the little table, curious. The old woman shuffled her cards and smiled. She spoke just as I began to ask her how it worked. Don't worry, Mercury is in retrograde now. When the planets go direct, you will be content again. The little hairs on the back of my neck stood again. How did she know? She waved a hand above the deck of cards, her silver bracelets jangling like tiny wind chimes. The 3 cards I'm about to show you represent the past, present, and future. I shifted from foot to foot, unprepared for a reading. She picked up the deck again, her gnarled fingers shifting deftly through the cards before she set the deck back on the little table. She flipped the top card, laying it on the black cloth with faint stars printed all over it. She tapped the card with her yellowed nail. This card is your past, the Page of Wands. Her raspy voice held the trace of an accent I couldn't place. You've been content with your life, but it lacks direction. You've been at peace with most relationships, your work, your activities, but you've not held the reins. Your life has led you. She flipped another card while I processed what she'd said, knowing she was right. Most things simply happened to me throughout my life. I've never been hard to please. In fact, I'd always been kind of proud about how most of the major things in my life happened as if the universe provided what I needed, when I needed it, with very little drama. It happened in college when a scout came to watch one of my soccer teammates and ended up offering me a partial scholarship to a local university. So I went. The same thing happened with my job. After I'd passed my CPA exam and attended a school job fair, a recruiter from a prestigious law firm pointed me in the direction of openings in their accounting department. I applied and got the job. Most of my relationships even started as friendships with another player on my soccer team or someone from work. For some reason, people just sort of integrated their lives into mine for whatever time the relationship lasted and then moved on. No real effort, no real drama. Except once, but it only took once. The old woman's raspy voice interrupted my thoughts. The 8 of Pentacles, she said, as she turned the next card. Her twisted finger rested on its smooth surface. This is your present, she paused. Ah, you fight inside. Your passion is rising against your lack of motivation and inspiration. You wonder how you will fix this. She stared at the card. It's like you've been stuck on a railroad track. My heartbeat quickened. Had she meant I was in danger, tied to the tracks? Could I escape? The old woman's eyes found mine. Kindness shone from them. She almost appeared amused. Not a real railroad track, a metaphorical railroad track, going in one direction, hard to leave without a lot of effort. She shrugged. So you haven't. It's a smooth ride. Not the most interesting, but not so bad either. You're bored. Your eyes are opening, but you don't know what you see. This is going to cause a lot of questions and longing for change. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what she was telling me. I hadn't said a single word, but it seemed as if she knew me. Let's see what the future shows. She flipped another card, but when she placed it on the table, there were 2 cards. This is interesting. The cards are telling us your future is not a single path. She shrugged again. The truth is, our future is never a single path, but you have decisions that can bring different outcomes. The 2 of Pentacles and the 2 of Cups. She tapped the Pentacle card. Change and balance, a time to manage your priorities. This can maintain calmness in your life, or it can shake things up, leaving you feeling overwhelmed. The other card, the 2 of Cups, speaks of connection and partnership, maybe romance. Something lacking in your life? Yes? I fought the urge to shake my head. Partnership, romance, neither had ever been important to me. Conversely, balancing the priorities in my life had always been a huge focus for me. I had other things in my life, more pressing things making it hard to pursue a relationship. Thus, all of the brief connections I'd made petered out. At the time, it made sense that the Pentacle card should be the path meant for me.
Wow, thank you. I don't know if that was a tarot reading for your character or a tarot reading for all of us in 2020, but this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, everyone listening, don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A box. Please put questions in there for these lovely authors to answer. If you don't, they are going to have to answer questions I made up, and the questions I have are really hard. So do them a favor and please put your questions in the Q&A. I saved the best for last. We have...
Thank you.
We're kidding, you guys. Come on, you know we don't play favorites.
That lovely accent.
I know, you can't compete with that.
Oh, she is on UK time though, so a big thank you for being here, Ileandra.
Right.
We have Ileandra Young reading from Moon Fever, which is the second book in your series, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yes, Moon Fever, following Danica Carlson, who is a member of SPEAR. That's the Supernatural Prohibition, Extermination and Arrest Regiment. Think of it as the police for supernatural creatures. All your books were so normal. That's so weird. Right. So this is quite near the early of the book. Danica has just had a roaring argument with her girlfriend and has gone off in the car to go to work with one companion. This is her pet. And I will give you this context. The pet is a chitarik, which is imagine a cat-like creature with bat wings and a barbed tail, which talks, but talks more like a Pokemon than an actual thing. So it says her name rather than anything else. And that's who she's talking with in the car. Doobie-doobie-doo. The traffic lights ahead of me shift in my favor, and I ease the car forward again, aiming deeper into Masona. The streets are fuller now, but shabbier and darker despite the growing natural light. Wandering figures cloak the pavement in varied shapes and sizes. I'll have to ask Pippa when she wakes up. I bet she'll know what's going on, or at least have a test to figure out why my body is being so weird. Nika? Yep, though not as she keeps telling me I smell. Rude. Two hunched figures in tattered clothing start hobbling across the road several yards ahead. I slow to let them go safely. They still have that graceful Eden glide, but it seems off balance somehow, awkward in a way I rarely see. They aren't the only ones either. Others huddled in doorways or leaning against burnt out cars. They all seem to be moving in a slow, unsteady way. Though I bet that would get Mum's attention, right? I could open a conversation with that, if she'd ever pick up the phone. Hey Mum, guess what? My period's back. Still no grandkids though. I remain as gay as they come, and my girlfriend's a vampire. Norma lowers her tail, her cackles fading off into the soft chittering her species is named for. I take a left turn, cross a roundabout. What am I going to do, Norma? Why is everything so bloody difficult? Dan. Gah, gah. What? I chance a look at my pet and slam on the brakes. Norma has curled herself into a tight, scaly ball. Her wings are down and pressed tight to her back. The barbed tail almost vanished beneath her body, which is shaking all over. Norma? She turns to me, head barely lifting, both eyes wide and bright. And a stunning impact rocks my car. My seatbelt tightens, saving me from hitting the steering column, but the top of my head cracks hard against the ceiling. What the hell? Thud, creak, thud. Norma curls tighter into her ball. Even the chittering sound vanished and replaced with a groaning moan. Something hard pokes the top of my head, followed by a squealing shriek of twisted metal. I look up. Oh, hell. The ceiling is dented by a good 3 inches, and the ring-shaped set of punctures dents the scuzzy fabric lining off to the left. Thud, crunch, thud. A face appears beyond my windscreen. upside down and misshapen with fur bristling from features all mixed up and stretched. There's a werewolf on my car. A werewolf in hybrid form gazing hungrily through my cracked windscreen. Oi, get off my fucking car! One huge furry fist pulls back. Massive fangs glisten with sticky saliva. The car roars as I floor the accelerator. Gears grind and chunk through their sequence as I force the vehicle into reverse. Tires squeal, the wolf yips. Again, my seatbelt tightens, this time against abrupt backward momentum as the car slaloms along the street. The werewolf clinging to my wolf, the werewolf clinging to my roof, howls, a mix of surprise and fury, then clings for dear life as I increase the speed. Brakes. Another yelp, and the werewolf shoots back out of view. It tumbles, thud, thud, smack across the roof, then slides down the rear glass out of sight. I suck a hard breath through my nose. What the hell is going on? Howling, lots of it, from every direction. A glance through my side window shows humanoid figures stepping out from shadows between buildings. Humanoid figures with overlong arms and huge, thick legs. Dan, 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 Dan. I grab Norma by the scruff and stuff her into my t-shirt. It's like trying to cuddle an unwilling iguana, but at least she's safe in there. Her trembles continue against my stomach. More gear grinding and the car rockets forward, this time with control and purpose. I heave on the handbrake for a tarmac scorching turn, then continue back the way I came. Werewolves everywhere. Some changed, some not, all of them glaring at my car like a packed lunchbox. One darts up my window, forcing me to swing wide to escape. The offside clips a tall set of black bins and sends them careening down the once abandoned pavement. I grip tighter. Dan, 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 Dan. It's okay, baby. I'm here. I'm here. Another daring leap from a werewolf sends me in the other direction, this time shearing along the side of a parked car. Sparks fountain like a spray of celebratory fireworks, and the acrid scent of charred paint stings my nose. It's not far now. The roundabout I used to enter this area marks the end of packed territory. They shouldn't follow me beyond that. They shouldn't. Crash, thud, thud. More roof action. This time, I've no choice but to ignore it. A glance in my mirror tells me that. There are 7 werewolves back there, and that's only the ones I can see. Another trick with my brakes will make it far too easy for them to catch up, and I know I don't want that to happen.
That's amazing. There's so much action in there with all those werewolves, but I feel like my favorite line was, you know, my period's still back, Mom. Just listen in on.
I feel like that would have been a better answer to your question, actually, like when you headed up this session. What would happen if your vampire is a girlfriend and you've just had a period out of nowhere, because they don't normally have them, and just out of nowhere she's got one, and her vampire girlfriend noticed, which is a problem.
I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, or we'll have to discuss it later.
You're gonna have to buy the book and find out.
Right.
Talk about bloodlust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Where's the title for your next one?
There you go.
Alrighty. Again, please put your questions in the Q&A box. I am going to start us off with one of mine for our lovely authors here. You all have multiple releases. So what's one similarity between all your books? And what's one thing that's unique to this book? Let's start with PJ.
Why do you want to start with me?
Because I'm picking on you.
What's the same between all my books is there's always at least one character who's kind of working class. And what's unique to this one, it's the first time I've written one where one of the characters is filthy rich and the other one is poor.
Yeah, I got some rich girl, poor girl trope happening there. Yep. Okay, Jaycie, how about you? One similarity between all your books and one thing that's unique to this one.
Well, mine's a series, so the two characters of Gail Rains and Beth Smythe, they go through all three books. But in this particular book, the couple that they're becoming friends with, Kathleen and Whit, are new. They briefly appeared in one of the other books, but this delves more into their relationship and then in the relationship between the two couples as well.
Cool, thank you.
Mhm.
Deb, how about you? One similarity between all your books and one thing that's unique to this one.
Well, of course, the horses, as since most of my books, except maybe one, Ordinary is Perfect, there's horses in some way in my books, and this is very deep in thoroughbred racing and the breeding behind it, and it's also a lot about Kentucky. In fact, I got so deep into research in this book, into prosthetics and that research, and into women in the military and into the thoroughbred. I almost didn't have time to write the book. I got so involved in all the research, and it was so interesting. And I didn't know about Kentucky's Bourbon Trail. I didn't know that Kentucky's really into distilling bourbon, specifically bourbon. And like they don't. It was the thing that's different is that I actually get into some politics in this book, and I usually avoid that because I'm a career journalist and I get plenty of that at work. I don't even want to talk about it when I'm at home. I certainly don't. That's why I write romance novels, because it's like the furthest you can get away from that crap, and I do touch on it because it is pervasive in a lot of military appropriations and all of that, and that does affect right down to into the troops, and a lot of there's a lot of politics involved in how women have been treated in the military, and how that's changing and how it needs to change a whole lot more. And so
Cool, thank you. Ileandra, how about you? One thing that's similar across all your books and one thing that's unique to this one.
Something that seems to pop up a lot, well, a lot across two books, is family and the importance of family, or the different ways you can define family. It's not just your blood relatives, you choose your family, you're given your relatives. So that's something that pops up a lot. In terms of something unique, I've never really played about with werewolves before. I love vampires, and that's something I love, and will keep dabbling in. But werewolves are really interesting, and making a story about them rather than vampires, but still having my vampires, is very different to anything I've ever written before.
Cool, I mean, why choose, right?
Yeah. Everything.
Kim, how about you? One thing that's similar across your books and one thing that's unique.
I think that the thing that's similar across my books is that they tend to touch on pretty deep subjects. The characters in my books have to really go through a lot of mental growth to get to a point where they can actually live their lives the way they want to. And with that, they usually have a very strong family of choice that helps them do that. So they've connected with people that help them get through it without being, overly preachy or dramatic with them. I think the thing that's different about this one is I actually did tackle a pretty deep thing with disability. Two things in this book in the cards is, one of them is she wears a prosthetic. And she's had an accident, and she wears that, and she's dealing with the image and her idea of who she is with that. And the other one is dealing with her sister's autism, and both of them were really difficult to hit, and it's a lot to take on in one book, but it feels like they kind of came together. So that was a similarity that they both could work with and connect with.
Cool. That actually segues really nicely into our first question from Ann Hart. She asks, did you make contact with any experts in the area of prosthetics and any experts in disability for Kim's book and also for Deb's book too? They're both dealing with protagonists who have disabilities here. So what was the research like?
I didn't, I would have if I had time, because living in the Raleigh area, I have easy access, the Raleigh-Durham area, I have easy access to Duke University. I had to stop at some point the research that I was doing, but we had one of the things that got me started was we had a reporter that had done an extensive interview with some of the researchers at Duke University, and they were researching that specifically. They had made some breakthroughs and were able to, by bringing some of the nerves to just under the skin, able to design some bionic prosthetics that could, the brain could actually message down to the bionics the sensation of pressure, so that they could, which a big thing is being able to tell how hard you're gripping something, or and with hands, that's a big thing, you know, when you crush something or just pick it up. And so they were experiencing that, and there's a lot of research. YouTube is an amazing research source, you know, the videos that you can find on there. And at MIT in the UK, they've done some great research, and they're able to make a lot of these prosthetics even available to maybe not those with sensation, but a lot of realistic prosthetics that look like real hands and feet and legs that function much better with a lot of joints. With 3D printing has really made them available to a lot more people because they're much cheaper. 3D printing makes them much cheaper and available to a lot more people. The UK has been a leader in that, and it's just amazing the things that they're doing. Yeah.
Kim, do you have anything to add in terms of the research for disability in your book?
I felt it was important for me. The main thrust of the book is trying to get into the characters' thoughts about how it's impacted her state of who she thinks she is. So I did a little bit of research on my own, and I say a little bit, I get into these holes and just go everywhere with it, but about the actual prosthetics themselves, about how they work and how you put them on and how they would work if you were in a scene, that kind of thing. That was online. But I talked to people with disabilities, and I watched a lot of interviews with people with disabilities, mostly people in the military because of combat injuries, but about the psychology behind it, about how they felt about who they were prior to their accident or their surgery or whatever it was that caused them to have to use a prosthetic or not use a prosthetic. That was a big part of it too. A lot of them choose not to use prosthetics. They don't want to go there.
That's so interesting. All right, I have one for Ileandra and Jaycie, who write series. Should we read the first book in your series first, or can they be read out of order? Ileandra, why don't you go first?
Please read them all. To be honest, I think you could actually pick up Moon Fever quite happily and just read. Obviously, there are elements of the relationship between Danica and Rain that you might miss if you don't see how they meet, because they're already established as a couple here. No, spoilers for the last one. But as a complete story, even though I'm making the Spear Mission Foul series, I want complete stories. So you can read beginning to end and be satisfied that you have the whole story, and then go forward or back.
Cool. All right, Jaycie, how about you? Should we read them in order, or can they be read as standalones?
Sure. I think we all try to, when we're doing series, we always try to keep in mind that somebody might pick one up in the middle or at the end. And so we try to write them as standalones, that they would be okay on just as being read by themselves. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's better to read the whole series because you do so much more character development as it goes. Not just trying to sell the books, but yeah, sure, trying to sell the books. But I think you'd miss some of how they got to where they are wherever you pick it up if you don't read the others in the series.
All right, there you go. Plug for series. All right, I have one last question for PJ before we go. What was the most satisfying scene for you to write in your book? What's the one where you wrote it and you were like, damn, I really nailed that scene. I'm really happy. Is there a particular scene that stands out for you?
Not that I can think of, honestly. There's not any one scene that stands out at all.
Is there a type of scene you like? Like, do you particularly like writing like the meet cute or the sex scene, or?
I like writing when the two people first meet. I think that's my favorite part to write.
Yeah, all right. I love that, where your heart's racing and you see them for the first time. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for this BSB preview panel for our August 2020 releases. Thank you to Kimberly Cooper Griffin, Ileandra Young, D. Jackson Leigh, Jaycie Morrison, and PJ Trebelhorn. You can get all their books at 15% off if you pre-order until 7:30 today, and the links are in the chat roll. Please join us in about 8 minutes for the next panel, which starts at 6 p.m. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Sandy. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.